are listening to the More Senses Please podcast, episode 2.
She said, I don't even know what to do because you aren't ready to move. You are being forced to move. You know, I could have stayed. I could have, they could have put me on unpaid leave. I could have got another, second mortgage or whatever and had a little cushion. And I could have probably made it work that way. But that wasn't the point, Kate. The point was that I just felt so strongly that I had to be out of debt, because when you are in debt, you are a slave to that system.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live debt-free, sell it all and live small, travel the country full-time, or raising animals and growing your own food as a sustainable family? My name is Kate, and these are just some of the stories of those who have flipped the script and changed their lives. Welcome to your Freedom Podcast, sharing those who have broken free from the mold and living life on their terms. This is More Sunsets, Please. Welcome, Corrie. Welcome to More Sunsets, Please. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's first start off. Where are you?
I am in North Nicaragua. It's about 300 kilometers away from the capital city. And it's pretty remote where I am. There's not a lot around here. There's a little bit of tourism with the surf camps and stuff, but it's very remote. It's more down south. Nicaragua there's a lot of expats down here. There's a few up here, but it's pretty remote where I am. I just happened to pick the hottest spot in Nicaragua. It is really hot here. Not right now, but coming into March, April, it is so hot here.
In this whole story of yours, we're going to touch on that in a minute. Who all is involved in your story?
Here in Nicaragua, at this very moment, it's me and my mom. And so my mom just retired in November of this year. And then I said, yeah, come down. You can start your retirement off in the tropics. And so she's here until March. Gabe and I, so my son Gabe, he's turned 14. He was down with me. He came down in November last year with me. We stayed until June. And then we went back to Canada, and he didn't really like it here. He really struggled. And I think I told you about that. Like, it was no friends. He did bring his PlayStation, which he could keep in touch with his friends, but I built him a basketball court, which was a lifesaver for him, because he actually taught a lot of the locals how to play. He learned Spanish by teaching them how to play. But it just wasn't his jam. And so once we got back to Canada, he said, like, I can't go back there, Mom. I want to go to school. And he just wants to do all the things that he's been used to. And it was really hard for me because I raised him on my own. He's never been away from me. And so he stayed with his dad now.
Wow.
And, yeah. And I think it's going okay. He's a teenage boy, they don't really say much on text. He doesn't want to talk on the phone. He doesn't want his picture taken. He doesn't want to take videos, like none of that. It's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm playing basketball. I'm fine. My daughter, Taylor, who stayed in Canada, she's 28. She sees him from time to time, but not very much because he's busy. So that was really hard for me to come back here without him. But I've been a mom since I was 16. I had Taylor on my own, and then I had Gabe on my own. And to be honest, it's kind of been a really awesome blessing just to not say I'm not a mom anymore, but just like take some time to figure out who I am, to grow spiritually, to just take a deep breath and just like, okay, someone else can raise him right now, because I did my work, man. Like, it was challenging to raise that kid. And, I was a nurse, I had a mortgage. Like, I was just on this rat race of, he was in rep hockey and all these sports, and it, I loved every minute of it. But now that I look back, I'm like, I was just like constantly, and now I'm just like, setting up shop here. He knows he can come back at any time. he can come back with his friends. I'll be back in Canada in probably the springtime. So that's kind of like my plan, government willing, that I will stay here August till April, May, and then go back to Canada May until August, because I love Canada. I realized I didn't think I'd ever go back there. When I said goodbye in November 2021 to my daughter, there was so much, like, it was so crazy at that time. I actually thought that that was maybe the last time I was going to see her, like all the fear of whatever the agendas, whatever they were doing. I thought, I'm never going to see her again. I don't know what's going to happen. And so for us to go back, it felt like, okay, so this is going to be the new normal for me. I'm going to spend 8 months down here and 4 months in Canada. And because I'm not ready to say goodbye to my family and just live down here, I want to see them there and my friends. Like I'm just not ready yet. And no government is going to stop me from going back to see them. I don't care about my stuff, but I do care about my family and friends, and I need them in my life. So Gabriel knows that, he can come back here anytime, and, restrictions or whatever, they're actually, it's all a scam. And so we will figure out a way if, more restrictions come in, like you can do things to kind of do whatever you want, really. And I did, like, you do what you have to do. And I'm not gonna not come home for spring and summer to see my family. So I'll probably go back at the end of May and connect with him then. And I think he's happy to be around his friends. He's happy to be playing basketball. He's in high school. He's doing pretty good there. But again, I wouldn't want that for him. I didn't want him to go back in the school system again, because I disagree with the whole thing. But that's, it's, I guess, pretty radical of me to say that. It's not the normal thing that kids do. And I can understand, well, as what we did as parents to try and save our kids is totally out of the norm.
Yes, very much so.
And so it's hard when they're teenagers to appreciate what we've done. I do feel though that at one day he's gonna be like, okay, yeah, my mom did some pretty gnarly things to save us and save the family and save me financially, and to stand up for humanity, really.
Yeah. And protect them. They have no idea how much we just protected them, even for those 6 months, right?
Yeah.
How much protection he had being in Nicaragua versus back in Canada. Because I know if we stayed, my son would have caved or done something under our purview. And, the risks.
And that's how they got people, right? You can't do this, you can't do that. And so we were gone for a chunk of time where there was so much pressure being put on these kids to, go behind their parents' back and get and take an injection that they have no idea. And now, the writing's on the wall now. People are getting sick, and young boys like, our sons who are healthy are just dropping dead. And so he knows now, you don't ever take any injection ever, forget about the drugs. Like, if you want to do whatever, I don't approve of that, but that's minuscule compared to do not ever take any medications. And so I think he knows that. And I want to put my faith in that. Like, I raised him well for 14 years. And I love him. I wish he was here, but it's teenage boys, man. They just, he would be miserable here, and it wouldn't be really fun for any of us. So it was a lesson in me of just letting go of some control. And I did it. So, and that's part of my journey too. Just letting go of things you cannot control. He's on his own path too. And we have friends down south. They have two older boys too. They're like 19 and 20, and they went back to Canada too. because this isn't quite their jam right now. And I mean, it's not for everybody. And so, I kind of confided in her and like, am I a bad mom? Like, what's going on? She's like, no, man, like, it's just, they just have to figure things out. And, that is he just didn't like it here. And I have to respect that. I actually met a man in the summertime in Canada. And so I have a boyfriend now. He's already been down for 3 weeks in October and he's coming down February 2nd. So he's going to stay until April. He's going to stay for 3 months. And he was a Kitchener firefighter and he didn't agree with the mandates. So he just retired. Actually, he retired the same day that I left Canada in November of 2021. And so it's just so awesome to have, like, he is just honestly the best. And it's really funny about that because I knew when leaving here in the spring of last year, I said to my friends, I'm like, I'm going to meet a guy in Canada. And they're like, get out. And I was like, because I've been single for 11, 12 years. And like, I didn't date, nothing. I just dedicated my whole time to raising my son. And they're like, come on. I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to. And it was the end of July. And all of a sudden he came along. I'm like, this, okay. And it just works. So yeah, he's great. And I can't wait for him to come down. I have a big crew of, I think 6 or 7 friends coming down at the end of February. One of my best friends is coming down at the end of March. And we're just going to hang. Like it's so beautiful here. And it's not, I've never been to a resort. So I don't know if it's like a resort, but it's pretty awesome here. So, because I never traveled, I never saw the ocean until I came here.
Which still blows my mind. I still remember that first time you hit the beach and you popped out your phone and just recorded. I'm pretty sure you were crying. Just like, I am at the beach right now. Who knew it took all this crazy to get me to the ocean?
So crazy. And I remember the last day of work, I said to the girls, they were like, I really feel bad for you. I said, don't feel bad for me, man. I'm going to be drinking a pina colada on the ocean on Christmas Eve. And I did. And never saw the ocean before, but it's healed me. This has healed me like so much.
So can you take us back to the beginning of what got you? So good broad brushstroke of where you started to how you got to where you are now.
So I am a nurse. I was at Grand River Hospital in Kitchener. And March 2020 came and they're like, there's a pandemic coming. And so of course everyone's like, oh, like I was kind of scared. At the time, I was working in the withdrawal center. So people would go there to detox from alcohol. And I'm a float nurse. So I go most units of the hospital, but they were going to close that. So I said, okay, I'm going to go back to the main site because my skills are more needed there. And I'm just going to work all the floors, whatever. So then we got our first patient. And I remember going into the room because he had COVID. It's kind of weird. Like I'm touching someone with COVID right now. Like, oh, I don't know if I feel good about that. And at the time we had like cheap masks, no N95, nothing. And this poor guy, like he had already had a stroke before. He was in his 60s. He was really fevered. And he was sick, and we treat people that are sick like that all the time. So I was like, Corrie, give your head a shake, man. Like I've taken care of people with AIDS, HIV, like whatever. I can take care of this, just take care of them like a normal patient. So I did. And then the craziness started happening, like they're banging pots and pans for us. And at that time, the hospital was pretty much, they decanted all of the patients. So they put them out to free pour or discharge them. And so we had like one unit completely empty waiting for this surge of COVID patients. And it remained empty for a long time. The only reason why we filled that unit was because Forest Heights long-term care home, they had an outbreak. And so they had COVID positive patients. Now, when I say that, I'm saying they were positive. Not a lot of them were actually sick. Like they were a nursing home patient. So obviously they're not well people, but they came into us and a lot of them were probably at their baseline. They just were COVID positive. So then we had to take care of them there on that floor, and then they shipped them out to Freeport. So it's like, I remember saying to some girls, I'm like, is this it? This is COVID-19. This is it. Like the old people are getting the flu and they're here, and like it doesn't make any sense. And I said, and people are banging their pots and pans, man, for us. And I'm not doing anything that I didn't do before. I being a nurse, we get treated like shit. I've been bit, spit at, sworn at, said, people are terrible to us a lot of the time. But now family members are like, oh my God, thanks for being there. They're on the phone. Like, oh my God, I can't believe that. And I'm like, well, I've been doing this job the whole time. No one's ever been this nice to us. And we're getting meals and we're getting coffee and you could pick what meal you wanted and what day you're going to get it. And they deliver it. And I'm like, what the is happening here? Me and my friend walked down to Vincenzo's, and the streets were like empty. It was like, totally weird. And a father and son were biking by. It was probably in April, and they started clapping while they were biking. I looked at my friend Ange. I was like, this is messed up, man. Like I don't know what's happening here. Like it's actually the best it's ever been. We would have long breaks for lunch. We had, 3 nurses to 2 patients. We had the OR, some of the senior OR nurses were like spot cleaning the railings in the hospital because they shut all the ORs down. It was only emergency surgeries. So I look around and like, is this all it is? Like, I don't know, but it doesn't really add up. And then, the second wave's coming. And the second wave was like, oh, it's young people now. And I don't know that was really true, and then the mental health, the boom in mental health because of all the lockdowns and nurses were working like crazy because there was nothing else to do. I was working nonstop because I'm like, well, I don't want to sit at home. I like to be busy and I want to see my friends, and my friends are at work and I'm getting paid. Like there was so much overtime. For what? I have no idea, because we weren't that busy. And then, so that was 2020, and then 2021 came, and then the vaccines started rolling out, and go, you should get it. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I want that because I don't think it's that bad. And then then there were nurses were fighting over, oh, emergency went, they got their shots and we want to go. I'm like, you guys sound like kind of weird right now. Like, you saw what COVID was, right? Why do you need a vaccine for that when you've probably been exposed to it anyways? So you probably have antibiotics, like you should be good. Like, it actually wasn't that big of a deal. I hate to downplay it, but I mean, come on. And no, we got to get it. And they're fighting. I thought, oh, this is kind of weird. And then I actually got COVID. I had been to work like previous days before you test positive. And I was like, well, now I just spread it to everybody. So that's really good. I mean, come on. So then you have to stay home for 10 days. Public health made Gabe stay home with me, and they said, isolate him from him. I'm like, no, it's him and I in a house. I'm not isolating from him. And they said, well, if he tests positive, then he can go back to school quicker than if he tests negative. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I said, well, really what you're going to try and tell me here is that I should give it to him so he can get the hell back to school faster. So I did, Kate. I use his toothbrush, and he gets mortified when I tell this story. I use his toothbrush 5 times. He drinks peppermint tea. So I would like spit in his tea, mix it up. And I lick the peanut butter knife and put the peanut butter on his toast and went to get him tested. I didn't even want to be tested, and he was negative.
What?
Interesting. I did an experiment, and I told my friends are like, Corrie, you did not. And I was like, I absolutely 100% did, because I wanted to know for a fact. And I live with him, like we're on the couch together. You're like, he should have gotten something from me if it was, kids were at risk and, so then public health calls me and said, okay, Gabe's negative. He's got to stay home for a few more days, 14 days or whatever. And I said, well, I'm just letting you know right now. I tried to give it to him. You did what? I said, oh yeah, I tried to give it to him. So, And they're like, you could see, you hear on the phone, like, I don't even know what to do. This chick's absolutely crazy. So then they passed me on to the supervisor phone and said, oh, hi, Corrie. I'm just wondering if did you try to give your son COVID? I said, yeah, it didn't even work. Funny enough. She's like, hey, thank you. Have a good day. Hung up the phone. But I think they were going to call children's services on me because I was trying to give him that. And I like, go ahead, try it. He didn't get it. So what's the problem here? So then I really knew 100% that I actually didn't have to have the vaccine because I already had it. And I don't need to give it to him because he can't even get it. So then fast forward into the fall of that year, then there were like mandates are coming out September 7th. And I had already, because I kind of think ahead, I had already, when you weren't allowed to meet, you're only allowed 5 people in your house or whatever. I've been having meetings with my girls and I call my group the handmaids. And so we'd have these get-togethers and we're like, okay, if this happens, we got to do this, this, this. And like my mind was already like, if this happens, like I got to get out of here. And I didn't actually think that was going to happen because it just in my head, like it can't even get that crazy. It doesn't even make sense.
Well, and it's Canada. It's not supposed to happen in Canada, right? Canada's supposed to be the nice free country of the North.
Yeah. Well, then the mandates came out and then my group kind of got bigger. There was firefighters coming, police, and Roman Baber came to my house to say, okay, we're going to try and get this. So we're like, okay, well, if Roman Baber can get that bill passed or whatever, then we'll be safe. But that didn't work. And I'm like, you know what? No one is coming to save us. And as soon as I realized that, I said, I have to make some moves here on my own. So I made a promise to myself that if they actually put me on unpaid leave, Grand River, if they said you can no longer work here, you have to go on unpaid leave, no matter if they're going to terminate us or not, I got to get the hell out of here because me as a single mom, I have a mortgage, I have debt. I am not safe here for many, many different reasons, for the whole thing, right? Not just because of COVID, but financially, everything. And so October 12th, they actually put us on unpaid leave. I listed my house like 4 days later and it sold in a day and a half or whatever. And then I had already been speaking to some people down here. I had rented a house and we were leaving. And I say that, and it sounds like it's very easy, but it was the hardest decision I have ever had to make because one, I've never traveled. I didn't even know where Nicaragua was on the map. And I had bought my home from my family when my grandmother passed away. My dad was raised in that home. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into that house. And it was like it was my home that I thought I was going to die in just like she did. Like I was so attached to that house. My family was attached to that house. So even Heather, my realtor, was like, I don't think I've ever had a more emotional listing ever. She said, I don't even know what to do because you aren't ready to move. You are being forced to move. I could have stayed. I could have, they could have put me on unpaid leave. I could have got another, second mortgage or whatever and had a little cushion. And I could have probably made it work that way. But that wasn't the point, Kate. The point was that I just felt so strongly that I had to be out of debt because when you are in debt, you are a slave to that system. And right now I am not a slave to anybody. I own my house outright. I have zero debt and I can do whatever I want. I don't have a lot of money, but I own everything that I have here. So it was really important. And a lot of people didn't understand what I was doing. Only now, a year and a half later, they're like, I think I understand what Corrie did. It was really messed up. And, I shed a lot of tears the day that I left for Nicaragua. I moved the last of my stuff out of the house that day. And I just was on the floor of my house. There's nothing in there. And just like crying hysterically, praying to God, saying like, you gotta give me something good at the other end here, because the pain that I have right now I've never felt like that in my life. Like I was leaving my family. I was leaving my home, my career, my like everything. I just felt like I'm giving it up. And so once we landed here and I went to the ocean, I was like, I mean, come on, you just you just can't. I hate to tear up because
I know, I am too, because it's all the flashbacks, all the memories of that moment leaving,
yeah,
pushing the stupid little button on our door to lock the door and going, oh, this was a push. Like, this was a push out of our comfort zone and out of everything we were ever used to
yeah.
something completely unknown, especially for you, because you've never been or even knew where that country was.
And I'm taking my son, I'm taking away from everything he's ever known. My daughter was so mad at me. Like, she was like, you shouldn't have sold the house. And like, my mom was supportive. My dad was, he's like, I don't know, Nicaragua, it looks like it's scary, but like, I understand it, but I don't think he actually understood. My one brother, he lives in a motorhome in BC. He was like, yeah, do it, and I'm like, oh, well, it's, I have so many ties to that. And like, I was like, I was doing the normal things. I was going to work. I was coming home. I was going to hockey. I was, on all of that. I just was like, it's done. It's all done. And it was very, very, very hard. And even my friends at work, like Grand River Hospital to me was a place that I basically grew up. I was there for 14 years. My friends are there. They shared, I had Gabe while I was there. I was on my own pregnant. And, my girls at work were like my family. And I know so many people there because I worked on every unit. And to leave that was really hard. Because Corrie was Grand River Hospital nurse. I was like Miss Congeniality of Grand River Hospital. I knew so many people there, and I love taking care of the patients. So like literally everything that I ever knew, as soon as I locked the door, was gone. It was very crazy, very, very crazy.
It's so hard to look back and just go, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I had enough courage to do the crazy thing.
Yeah.
And then to know, fast forward now, that, okay, we made it. We survived. We're making it work. And you're a totally different person now.
People at work are like, well, if Corrie was going to do anything crazy, we can totally see that, but I actually feel like I've transformed into somebody totally different, even though I'm still Corrie. I am such a better person than I was before. I thought I was a good person before, but I am way better person now. I mean, I've done a lot of courageous things. I had cancer. I had, 2 babies on my own and a baby at 16. And, I have been blessed every single day since. And it's not that I'm a lucky person. People don't even have an idea of how much I gave up and how scared I was. And Sean Whalen had in one of his rants, and it stuck with me so long, was like, no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save me. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have a husband. My parents aren't going to bail me out. Like I have to do this on my own. I'm very thankful for his words because they stuck with me. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. No one's coming to save you. No politician, no friends. My friends are supportive, but they can only support. They can't bail you out of the situation. So that's what landed me here. And here we are. So the house that I rented, it ended up being for sale. And so my plan was to buy property and build, but then I was sitting at my balcony out here and having tea, and I have a big Guanacaste tree. I think you have them in Florida too. And just sitting under this tree, and like, this tree is so amazing. I love it here. and I'm just going to buy this one. And so it all worked out. I bought it, and the US to Canada dollar really sucked, but I ended up paying 197 for my house, Canadian 197, and bought it in cash. The property taxes are 60 a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
$60 a year.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And you have a lot of land. Like you have a good sized property.
Yeah, I have
and
almost an acre now of land, and it's got mangoes and mango trees, cocoa trees, plantain, bananas, limes. I did smuggle seeds back into Nicaragua because you can't bring seeds. And I just need help. I'm not a gardener, so I need help. My only real expense, like aside from cleaning up my house and renovating it and stuff, is I have staff that I employ. And so I have a gardener that works Monday to Saturday, and he works half the day, and he's like the man of my house, Cesar is. So he takes care of everything here. And then his wife is my house cleaner, and I certainly don't need a house cleaner, but they need work. And so that is, I keep her employed just because she actually needs the work, and I don't really need my house cleaned. So usually what I'll do is we'll clean the house together, do, different projects together, but that's really my main expense. And that's like 250 US a month.
now, along this whole journey, at what point did you feel like I'm on the right path? And then the second part of that, I made it. I made it. This is where I want to be. This is right.
I think once we landed in Managua, which is not a very nice city at all. And I don't know what I have done here, but this is not what I thought. But then once I arrived to where we are here, just going to the ocean, and it's really, there's no one on the beaches here. It's so isolated, and no one comes here. I just was like, okay, I definitely did the right thing. Now, it's been over a year. I can really say now, like I'm making it, and I'm doing pretty well. Taylor's not mad. My daughter's not mad at me anymore. She's so excited to come down here. It was really cool when my friends Steve and Chantal came down. They came down the end of November, just to see them look at my place through, kind of through their eyes. And they're like, this is so amazing. It just kind of solidified that, yeah, I guess I do have a really cool place. Like, I'm so happy to be here, and it's so beautiful. And now more people want to come down. And so I think now it's safe to say that I made the best decision ever. And my mom is just thriving here. She's, I said to my siblings that it's going to put years on her life just from being here in the winter months. And then, she'll go back at the end of March, and then it'll be springtime there. So
You're more like a resort for all your friends, that they can come stay at your resort, Corrie.
I'm down with that because it's so amazing here. And I just like, my house in Kitchener was a place that like everyone would just drop in and hang out. And it was so like just an inviting, comfy home. And so now I'm starting to make this feel like my home, and it is really, really awesome. And I spend most of the day outside. And it's hard to actually fit it all in. What I need to do is like, okay, so I have to journal in the morning, maybe read a book, then work out. And then, like if I have to, maybe paint, like that puts a big chunk in my day. It's like, and then it gets dark at like 5:30, 6 o'clock. And then I'm in bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock, because we're up at like 4:30 in the morning.
Isn't it funny how different your day is of what you consider busy compared to what was busy at home, which was so stressful, so go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And this is busy, but so content.
And I know now, like I've changed, because something that stresses me out now is like, I feel really stressed. Like I actually don't feel it. And it was like driving in busy time. I'm like, I just feel stressed. Like, I don't like this feeling. Like I'm really sensitive to things that don't serve me well. And, I have so much kind of awareness now of, no, that doesn't make me feel very good. So we're just not going to do that anymore. And then I don't.
That is such a huge change versus before, because you just push through it, right? I have to get all these things done. I'm going to push through it.
Yeah.
And this has allowed you to recognize that, acknowledge it, and go, nope, I'm not following through on that because it doesn't serve me right now.
Yeah, that's right.
That's amazing. Now, we did talk a little bit about some of the fears that you had and some of the challenges that you faced along the way. Did this turn out the way that you thought it would turn out?
I think it turned out better than I could have ever imagined. I don't know how, like I said, I've never traveled, so I had no idea how it was going to turn out. I kind of had an image in my mind, but, and when I would journal, I was pretty specific in what I would journal. So whatever I journaled, it seemed like it just came true. When I told the girls on October 12th, don't worry about me, I'll be drinking a pina colada on Christmas Eve on the ocean. And they were like, you can't even get out of the country right now, Corrie. Because at that time they said we couldn't. But that was all a scam too, because I got out, no problem. You didn't have to show anything. It was before November 30th. I don't know what it was like after November 30th, but they had said October 30th, that was it. You couldn't leave the country. It was really helpful for me to pray, to journal, and just to have goals, because then it just kept me motivated to keep working. And so I think it turned out better than I could have ever imagined. Really. I had a lot of help. I couldn't have done this on my own. Like, I had help from God. I couldn't have done this on my own.
Yeah, we very much feel the same, that we've had so much help throughout all of this, because like you, we don't have an income right now. And everything along the way has been provided for to the T. To the T, not more, but exactly what we've needed all along the way. And for us, that's how we know we're on the right path. That if it's not meant to keep going, we'd hit some more roadblocks, major roadblocks.
Yeah.
But
And that's what I think. There was a lot of roadblocks in my life that I look back now and think, oh, wow, the roadblocks kind of make you go this way or that way. And if you're not aware of that, then you just keep going on that path. And there was a million things that I could think of that are like, you just need to stop what you're doing. But unfortunately, finances gets in the way. And if that's what holds a lot of people hostage. I was lucky to get a lot of money for my house, more than I could have ever imagined. But without that, I couldn't do what I do. If you don't have money, I don't know how you're stuck, and I mean, it's not a lot, but it was enough that I could make it work down here. So right now I think I'm kind of cruising along pretty good, and I can identify certain roadblocks. Like in the summertime, I tried to go to Nashville with my friends, and they stopped me at Pearson. They wouldn't let me through because I didn't have the proper documentation. And so now I'm banned from the States until I get a waiver. But it was a roadblock to say, no, you don't need to go to Nashville. But what that roadblock did was, because I booked the trip to Nashville, I delayed my return to Nicaragua. I was supposed to come back on the 16th. I changed it to the 24th. So because I booked the trip, even though I didn't go, I delayed my trip back to Nicaragua, which I was able to organize a little protest at the Breakfast Television in Toronto. I was able to see my dad, who came back from Alberta to Ontario. He could meet my boyfriend. I got to spend more time with my boyfriend before I left, and like, it all worked out. But at the time, I was sitting in the airport going, okay, I'm banned from the United States now. I was really looking forward to going to Nashville with my friend. And now I have to call my boyfriend back. He just dropped me off. I'm like, you got to come get me because I'm a bandit and I'm not allowed in the States again. But it all worked out. Kristen Nagel and I had organized, we showed up at 7 a.m. to breakfast television because they were saying how there's a shortage of nurses. And, my kind of vision of that was, let's just show up at 7 o'clock in our scrubs saying, here we are, we're ready to work. They won't let us work. And it was very powerful that day. I really felt like, okay, at least I'm doing something. I needed to do something before I left to go back to Nicaragua because I missed the trucker protest. I was in there in spirit, but I was watching it from down here. And so I just felt like it was really good for me to be there and organize that and to pump up, my colleagues who, I mean, they're not having a good time like I am. They're still trying to, get jobs. Some of them are working as cleaners. Some of them have to, do other things, and they're not even allowed to be a nurse. And so I feel like I can be the voice that they don't have because they're still trying to get a job and whatever. And I just don't care anymore. I got a job while I was back home. I was staying at my mom's in Owen Sound, and I got a job at Grey Bruce Health Sciences in the emergency department. And well, I lasted 16 hours. I had a shift and a half, and then they asked for documentation, and then I got walked out.
Still, when was that? What was the timing for that?
That was the end of June of last year, 2022.
Of 2022. Still.
But I knew, and my friends are like, Corrie, you don't want to work there. And I'm like, I have to go there because I have to help people. And I feel like there's such a pull for me to help people there. And I just wanted to be casual. And I thought if I could have a casual job, and they were willing to accommodate me, that I would work casually through the summer. They'd give me a leave of absence to come back here to Nicaragua. And then every summer I come back and I work, which would be perfect. Like, you make decent money. And the money I made in like 3 or 4 months there would sustain me for a whole year down here. Absolutely 100%. And in my interview, the manager was so excited because I was fresh. I'm like, God, I love being a nurse. I can't wait to help people. And I'm fresh and I'm not burnt out. And I've just been in the tropics for 6 months, and they were really excited to have me. And then you don't have the proper documentation. So then they kicked me out. However, my first shift I was working, the only shift that I worked a half shift, and then they kicked me out. But I met a patient there, and he had come in with heart problems. And he's like, I don't know, it's something I was, just not feeling well. And I don't know what's going on. And I sat down next to him. I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to let you know that you get, there's things you can do to help your heart. And I didn't talk about any anti-vax, nothing. I just said, you could kind of work out, get back to the gym, stop drinking, and you can take some turmeric. It can help with inflammation because, have you taken any recent vaccines? He was like, yeah, I took that COVID one. And I was like, well, try this. It can cause inflammation. No one out there is going to tell you that, but I'm just letting you know, like, you got to do this. Because he said, yeah, there was somebody that can't play hockey anymore on the junior B team, and they have heart inflammation, and somebody died and whatever. And I was like, okay, pal, you got to connect dots here. I'm not going to say anything, and I can't say very much because there's only a curtain separating us from the people listening out there. I said, but I'll tell you right now, you just got to connect the dots. That's all. And so then he was a realtor, and we talked about, I said, yeah, I bought a house in Nicaragua, and this is because he was like, why are you so tanned? And so I went into the whole thing about, yeah, I'm living here and here's my house. And he was like, that's so amazing. My friends are going to Costa Rica. And I said, why are they going to Costa Rica? Well, because they don't agree with all this. I was like, I think you better reach out to your friends because I think they know what's up. So his EKG was fine. I said, you're fine, pal. You just got to listen to me, and you got to just start working out. And, he was, I don't know, 55 or whatever. After I was fired the next day, that's fine. But I said to my friends, you know what, I don't even care, because I think I was there for that one patient that I could teach him about, inflammation, about exercise and whatever. And then me and my friend Stacy were walking down downtown Owen Sound, and out comes this man from the realtor's office, and I just stopped dead in my tracks. And Stacy's like, "What is going on?" I was like, "I know him." She's like, "It's Corey." He's like, "Oh my God, you're my nurse." I was like, I barely recognize him. He's like, "Corrie, because of you, you have saved my life. I'm down 30 pounds. I exercise every day." And he said, "I know that something's going on with that vaccine now. I know it. I know it. I know it." He gave me a huge big hug. And he said, "I just can't thank you enough." I said, "Well, they fired me the next day." He said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yes, man, I'm totally fine. Like I was really just there to help you out that day. And I'm so glad to see you, man. Like you were he looked like a totally different person. And you were the reason why I had to go there that day and be fired the next day."
And be fired the next day.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy. You can work pretty much anywhere in the world right now,
Yeah.
except for Canada as a nurse, which is wild still to this day. Because I don't think they're hiring nurses back yet, are they?
No, they're not. Well, they could, but the problem is, what nurse is going to go back to work there now? And I compare it to being with an abused partner. I mean, the abuse is there, and then finally that's it. You're done and you're over with. And then, a year and a half goes by and you're like, "Oh, okay, I've changed. So you want to come back now?" But we're past that point of being vulnerable. We're at the point where, like, I've moved on, right? There is a point where you're still vulnerable. And, a lot of my friends would have probably went back if it was, winter of last year, maybe even summer of last year. But enough time has went on now. Like, do we actually want to work there for these people? I don't think so. Anyway, when you take a step back, you just see that and you're like, those institutions, I don't want to be a part of anymore. I actually can't do it. And it made me sick even to walk in the hospital. And then you see, this older lady getting remdesivir when she's got 4 vaccines, and she's in with COVID. And I, "Well, why are you here?" "Well, they said I should be here." "Well, you could have stayed at home because she wasn't that bad. But now they're giving him remdesivir." And so it just was, I think it just made my decision like, okay, I don't belong in these places anymore. I can't sit around and in the lunch break and see CNN and have people comment about, anti-vaxxers. I guess I am an anti-vaxxer and conspiracy theorist, but you know what? I'm healthy as and I practice what I preach. And you don't see a lot of us dropping dead in the streets or getting COVID for the 5th time. And just people are not getting it. But now I'm getting messages, Kate, like daily saying, "Corrie, what is happening? What is, why is everything you said, it sounded so crazy back then, now, like it's coming true? What is happening?" No, I'm not done. I am making it my mission to just help as many of those nurses that I care, nurses, like healthcare workers, to say, like, this is, you've been duped, you've been tricked, man. You have to, because they're still pushing 4th, 5th vaccine there. Still.
The whole purpose of this podcast is to share with those who are listening, real people living out there, living life on their terms, breaking free of the societal standards, living outside the box, all that
Right.
stuff, which is exactly what you're doing. They just need to hear how to do it. So they're hearing your story of what you did. How would you give them advice or encourage them, inspire them to just do it?
Well, I think, getting out of debt is a huge, huge, huge thing. And, I was fortunate enough to sell my house when the real estate market was hot. Like, I got way more than my house should ever, ever have been worth. You know, um, that's my experience. I didn't have any money. Like, I live paycheck to paycheck. So, how do you make big changes when you don't have much money? I'm not sure. I can't even speak to that, but I was just really blessed to be able to sell my house when I did. Um, but I think another point to that is that sometimes we hold on to things, or we don't want to do big things because it's uncomfortable. Maybe you have to move in with your parents for a year or so to get out of debt. It's not very comfortable to do that, but the end result is you're going to be so much better off. If people want to do something, if they really want to do something, they will be ready to be uncomfortable. I mean, that's just how it is. And if you don't want to be uncomfortable, then I guess you don't really want to change that much. It's not easy. That would be my advice for people, is just to write pros and cons, try and get creative with, how do you leave a system that you're enslaved in? And for me, it was financially. I had to just get out of it that way. And then the rest kind of followed. Huge leap of faith coming here. Like I said, I had to look it up where Nicaragua was on the map. It's not so like it's, and not to say that everyone's going to have the same journey. I mean, I don't know. I can just, from my experience, once I just said, I can't do it anymore, I'm tapping out, and someone else has to take the driver's seat for a bit because I can't do it on my own. And I'm not talking about other humans taking the driver's seat. I'm just, universe, God, whatever people believe in, just take over because I can't do it anymore. Journaling really helped me figure out what I was thinking in my head, what, goals that I wanted, things, listing things in priority, and just getting my feelings out. If you have a partner, maybe it's a little bit easier. I didn't. So that was the other thing with this whole situation, is I was making decisions, and I didn't really have any, a husband to say, well, this is a good idea. No, it's not. We should do this. Like, it was just me. And there was so much pressure. Like, I have to do the right thing. And if I don't, like, I'm going to be the screw up. So that's where journaling came in, and just a lot of praying, and it worked out,
It did.
Yeah.
It did. I still can't believe you are where you are.
I know. I feel like I pinch myself every day. It's like, oh my God.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's been so fun to go through your journey and be there with you through a lot of this, because, we chatted prior to all of this.
A lot of people are inspired by this journey, more so than I think. My boyfriend always says, like, there's so many people that are looking at you, Corrie, and just being like, I wish I could do that. And
so you've gone through a ton of changes. You've taken the leap. You sold it all and left the country. You attempted to try and jump back in, and they booted you back out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I kind of had to take that as a sign, like, don't belong here anymore.
No, it's not your space. It's not your space, which is perfect, because it's probably going to be too high stress anyways.
No, I was like, oh, being in there, being in the hospital, like, oh, I feel good a little bit, but I'm like, ooh, this is not for me. It's and once I left there physically, even though I was in so much stress, selling my house and all that stuff, like physically, like my migraines went away, not working nights, not being under the fluorescent lights. I apparently had osteoarthritis. That's gone away. I feel like it's reverse aging down here because I just feel so great. And to be honest, I've never felt this great, and I'm 45.
So then what does the future look like for you? What's going to happen next?
What's going to happen next? Well, my friends are coming down, and my neighbor is like the most incredible energy healer of all. And so I'm really kind of like trying to be like her little friend. Like, I'm just learning so much about energy and all of that stuff. And so I really feel like, it's kind of like the new way of healing, with energy and frequency, and there's so many ancient ways of healing that they've made us forget, basically, in a nutshell. And so I'm trying to learn those things, and a lot of people are trying to learn those things. And there is alternative healing that is so much better than going into a hospital and being fed pharmaceuticals. So I'm diving into that a bit. I'll come back to Canada in the spring, spend a few months there in the beautiful summer, and then return here. I bought another property. So my property is almost a full acre now. It was right in front of me. So I bought a yoga deck. And so my friend's been offering like free yoga there. And that's kind of going to be like my healing center, I guess. I'm hopefully going to sit on the committee for Canadian Frontline Nurses and be as active as I can down here with them up there, help out this community. I help an American nurse. She has a clinic here. And so I help her with certain things sometimes, and then just get my house ready for people to come here and visit.
If you could let our listeners know where they can find you and how they can connect with you.
Oh, okay. So I'm on Instagram. It's Corrie Bignell. They can message me on there and I can get back to them.
Awesome. Well, I'll put the full handle in the description so people can just click on it and find you. And I appreciate this conversation.
Yeah.
This has been long overdue.
Well, here we are.
Overdue. Yeah.
Everything in good timing,
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
And you guys take care.
Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying these stories, please leave us a review as it helps our podcast reach more listeners. For more information about this podcast, with show notes, links, and more, please go to our website, moresunsetsplease.com. While you're there, let's get connected. We post often on our Instagram and Facebook and share weekly updates through email. Make sure you join the list. But we want to hear from you. If you know of someone with a great story, send an email to info@moresunsetsplease.com and I'll be sure to get back to you. Until next time, keep taking time to enjoy more sunsets, please.